The Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verse 10. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all people." It may not be the birth of Jesus, but I do have some damn good news here on Rennie, Unhinged. Wow, I just got some of the best news that I have heard in a while. For once, a state that I dwell in will be lifting their COVID restrictions and mask mandates. Yep, I don't think you've heard it here first, but you have heard it here. Governor Greg Abbott has lifted his mask mandate for the entire state of Texas, and all businesses can now open at 100% capacity. The date is March 2nd, 2021, almost 365 days after 15 days to flatten the curve. Oh, the green shirts are gonna be pissed. What are they gonna do now? Like, what if their only goal in life is to walk around telling people to put their mask on? So what do they do now? What are they gonna do? Oh man, this is some great news, and there's already people going crazy on social media over this, including several students here that I've seen in my feed. Gosh, everyone is going so panic about this. It's like only 15% of the population has been vaccinated, so 85% can still get COVID. Well, how many other people have already had COVID and have survived it? Because they don't need to be vaccinated. They've already had the COVID as their vaccine. They've beaten it, so they won't get it again. I'm so glad that some people are finally coming to their senses about this. And people will hear this and think that I have no regard for public safety. And that is, of course, stupid. But you want to protect the vulnerable, not at the expense of everyone else. Thus, a statewide mask mandate is completely useless, does nothing. Because those who are healthy and at non-risk, like me, as soon as this goes out, and I will not be wearing a mask at all. If I get it, so what? I don't care. I'll be over it in 3 days. I'm not worried about it. But those who know that they're going to have an issue with this, or say are in the older demographic where it affects, do whatever you want. Wear the mask. If it makes you feel safer, then do it. I can tell you right now that it's really not going to help anything, because if masks were so effective, and people will throw studies at me because the last video I did, someone threw a study at me, but there are just as many studies to say masks don't do a damn thing when it comes to COVID as there are to say that do. So I don't know what you're supposed to... masks are supposed to keep, especially when doctors wear them, are supposed to keep stuff from falling out of your mouth into the mouth of the patient. And when they're worn in Eastern countries, they're usually to protect against smog, which is, it's still smoke. Like if you put something over your mouth and your nose, it's going to keep you from inhaling smoke. This is different than something that's aerosol. And especially, these have to be proper medical, 3-4 layer masks in order to do anything decent. And if they're not, they have to be commercially washed in order to be some sort effective. There are so many different stipulations and processes that just wearing a normal cotton homemade mask will not be that effective. And they have to be either disposable to have any sort of effect whatsoever. And the thing is you still have to eat places. I mentioned this in several videos ago, is that even if you enter a place that you're going to be taking your mask off anyway, there's still the risk there. It's not going to change anything whether you have it on at the door or whether you have it on at your table. It's going to be taken off when you go to take a bite of your pasta. It does not matter. And I am so thankful that Governor Greg Abbott is following in DeSantis' footsteps. From what I've heard, Florida has been open throughout most of this pandemic. And as I mentioned, it has identical curves, either hospitalizations, cases, curves, or whatever, as California, and it has a much more vulnerable population. Florida has one of the oldest demographics in the country, and they're doing fine, and they are open and ready for business. Masks are recommended, like they're saying that they're saying that you should, but it's not required, and many people don't. I would be one of those. I will be one of those people within the next few days, whenever this thing takes effect. Oh, but it's so good. It's so good to see. It gives you a sense of freedom again. Like the government finally cannot tell you what to do and what to put on yourself. Because, as I mentioned earlier, if masks were so effective, why is 15 days to flatten the curve turning into 365 days to flatten the curve? The year anniversary of the first lockdown is coming up here within like a week and a half or so. And if you ask most people, they say the pandemic is still at its highest peak. The pandemic never officially started. That's one thing people don't know. Pandemic is higher than epidemic, and COVID-19 never reached a point where the death total or the death rate reached the point of an epidemic. This thing has been exaggerated from the start, and we knew who was vulnerable, and we decided to shut everything down anyway instead of protecting those who we could have just focused on and let everyone else keep their freedoms and, enter at their own risk. We see this everywhere else. Enter at your own risk. Pretty much every flu season, people are out at their own risk. Like, if we didn't know that this was a separate time, we would have treated this as just the flu season. It wouldn't have changed anything because the death counts have been so manipulated by whether it's with and pre-existing, everything like that. It's been so skewed that it's hard to know where we're at. But I know for a fact that we haven't been in a pandemic range, like a pandemic rate or even epidemic rate, for a long time, and this thing has still been dragged out. Thus, the sensible thing to do is let things open back up. Let people make the choices for themselves. That's as easy a thing to do as it is. Do not take away everyone's freedom. Let them make the choice for themselves. And have the information available. Thing is, you don't know what information you can trust. And that's the hardest thing. The media is wondering, why isn't anyone listening to us when it comes to COVID? Well, it's because you have a very bad track record. We don't honestly know what to think. But from the simple statistics, if we know that our group really isn't that affected by it, well, we're not going to put our lives on hold. We got families to feed. We got lives to do. We don't want to get out there and do it, and we don't care. Because you're going to get sick regardless. You're either going to get sick with COVID, get sick with the flu, whatever. It's going to happen regardless. And most of us will be fine. So, I bring good news of great joy today is that Texas will officially be reopening. Good luck getting North Carolina and Virginia to follow that. That's going to be difficult. But the good news is I'm here for a few more months, so things are starting to blossom, and I will get a sense of normality before I go back home to the prison that is North Carolina and Northam's Virginia. But thank you for joining me on RJ Rennie Unhinged. I hope this has lifted your spirits to know that your sense of freedom here in Texas will soon be restored. Now, if you feel like wearing a mask and taking care of, if you think that's going to help you, go ahead, by all means. No one's going to tell you that you're, stupid for wearing a mask if you think it's going to protect you. By all means, go ahead. But for those of us like me who are more worried about having our freedoms restored than our own, health, because I know if I get this thing, I'll be fine. I'll get over it in several days. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Well, our freedoms are back, so let's enjoy this. So, thank you for watching this episode of RJ Running Unhinged, and we will see you next time. And by the way, God bless Texas.